בשם השם נעשה ונצליח, שיעור תורה, ברוכים הבאים, שבוע טוב, שבוע מבורך. We're starting our week with a continuation of the series, the Jewish HaShkafa, the ideology based on the Chazon Ish, his Sefer Emunah veBitachon. Tonight's shiur will be for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana Bat Sarah, Rav Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah Bat Anat, David ben Esriya, Doris Bat Jora, Yitzchak ben Liora, Zion ben Victoria, Orit Bat Ilana, and Michal Bat Yael, Talia Bat Sarah, Yitro ben Avraham, Stefan ben Katarina. Also Atzlacha Rabba for Shaul ben Farzane, Oshri ben Doris, Gabi ben Doris, Elad ben Doris, David ben Esriya, Marsha Bat Julie, Ayla Bat Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Joshua ben Noach, Jonathan Shlomo ben Noach, Reuven ben Pala Parel, Rachel bat Pala Parel, Shmuel Yitzchak ben Pala Parel, Naftali Tzvi ben Pala Parel. Kadosh Baruch Hu yivarech otam bekol mikol kol, them and all of the other supporters, Baruch Hashem, that are helping us doing all these amazing things. So a couple of brief updates of what's going on, and then we'll go into the shiur right away. We're going to try to spend a little time as possible on it. First, as you all have seen, or if you haven't seen, the Tikkun BEIT movie, Baruch Hashem, is doing very well. Not just based on views and so on, but also you see people that are actually watching it are typically making a comment and they're sharing it. It's all over the internet, Baruch Hashem. Quite a few people have contacted me about how this movie has completely changed their perspective, even if they were already keeping their BEIT. In many cases, people were not protecting their BEIT, married, single, old, young. People from all different spectrums of Judaism that have seen this movie got the wake-up call of their life, and that's why I keep telling everybody, especially the ones that are sending me messages thanking me, that again, it's good to watch it. It's good to get chizuk. It's good to be grateful, but we cannot be kfuyei tova, ungrateful people, and keep this stuff to ourselves. We have to do whatever we can to get this movie out to every single corner of society. Not just the Jewish world, but literally everywhere. As anyone saw the news in the last week, there's been one tragedy after another relating to the topics that we discussed in the movie. Mamash siyata dishmaya of how a Kadosh Baruch Hu, that's obviously has disasters in his world every day, but made specific things happen in the last week that are giving the world a little bit of a wake-up call. In one case, you had one guy go and shoot up a bunch of people. And when they asked him, why did you kill all of these different women? He said, because I was addicted to pornography, and I thought that maybe I could get rid of the desire by killing the people, killing the one I was desiring. If this guy would have watched the movie, just literally 2 hours before he would have done that stupid thing, he would have never done it. He simply would have never done it. His addiction to pornography got him to a state of mind of psychosis. And that's exactly what we discuss in the movie, where you see literally mass murderers, pedophiles, the worst people on planet Earth, say that the common denominator among all of these psychopathic people is the addiction to pornography. At the same time, you had this discussed on, on the different networks, and him admitting that it's his own addiction to pornography being the motivator behind his psychotic acts and of killing people. Of course, we always have to remind people that we're never celebrating when anyone dies, even if it's a wicked person. It's not for us to celebrate. It's a Kadosh Baruch Hu's creations, and of course, it's not our goal is to get people to do tshuva. At the same token, if people don't do tshuva, we'll see even more of this, like we saw also last week. A Jerusalem Post article came out saying that the gang raping in Eretz Yisrael, Eretz HaKodesh, has increased dramatically over the last year, where a bunch of young guys decide that they're going to make a young, innocent girl into their victim and traumatize her for the rest of her life for the sake of fulfilling their own crazy desires. When they ask these psychopathic kids why are they doing what they're doing, they say addiction to pornography. Same exact thing as this psychotic guy that we had in America. Same thing is happening in Eretz Yisrael. Addiction to pornography. And now at the same time, they have a government office coming out with a new bill trying to force phone companies to restrict their phones, at least the factory settings to be a little bit restrictive, so people don't go to and see all of this schmutz all over the internet every day. And as I always tell people about these different vehicles that people use, the filters that they have on their phones and the filters they have on their computers, that's all great. That's like putting a fence around your house. The problem is that if a tank is coming down the street, your fence is not really going to do much. So yeah, it's good to have subscription to this website and that website and have a filter on your phone and throw the phone away and not have a computer. That's all great, but in reality, it's not going to stop you. Why? Because if you have a bulldozer, a tank of Satan coming to your life to attack you, none of those things are going to work, because the Satan will come up with a different creative way, just like he has with countless people that I've been dealing with over the last several years, where even if they threw out their computer and their phone and everything else, they still sinned. Why? Because the only true filter that works endlessly and without costing you a penny is the filter of Yirat Shamayim. The filter of Yirat Shamayim, having fear of the Almighty and understanding the consequences of your actions. But as long as people escape this, they're simply never going to censor it. They're never going to stop it, and it's going to continue getting worse. And quite frankly, it is very disappointing of these different rabbis and websites that call themselves guarding people in some way or another, that are actually opposing teaching Yirat Shamayim, opposing teaching the fear of the Almighty by discussing the sins, as if Rabbi Yaron Kotler, the giant of all giants that built American Judaism, didn't say that you have to teach fear of punishment with details. As if all of the giants throughout all of history, Moshe Rabbeinu, Avraham Avinu, Rabbi Yosef Karo, Rabbi Chaim Vital, the Arizal, name anyone, as if all of them did not talk about literally having detailed visuals of why you should be scared of Hashem and what's going to happen to you if you continue sinning. Many people are showing their colors, and that's one of the things we're going to discuss, because many people love to learn MUSSAR, but there are some people that run away from it. Or perhaps they say, I can only take a little bit of it. What else are you going to learn? Oh, I'll learn some HALACHA. Is that wrong? Is that right? That's one of the things we're going to discuss. Key is this particular shiur, this movie, this film, whatever you want to call it, is a breakthrough in the world, not just in the world of Torah, but in the world in general, because there is, unlike the personal story of my life that inspired millions of people to change their lives and so on, it's great, but the reality is if you press play on my movie at any given point, it's not necessarily always going to impact you. If you only have 5 minutes of attention span, you may get into like 5 minutes of, boring material or something that's not going to attract you in some way or another. On the other hand, with this movie, it was mamash siyata dishmaya, that literally, as my own Rav, Rabbi Ephraim said, anyone that clicks on that movie at any given point and watches for any amount of time will change their life. Why? It's just that way. That's just the way the movie was made. Every single second that was in that movie is spent on helping people uncover this inner Satan that's destroying humanity. Now, if each and every one of us doesn't take ourselves by the horns and simply work on ourselves, we're never going to change. Now, of course, you cannot wait for the rabbis to change. You can't wait for the organizations to change. And there's a reason for that, which would, BeEzrat HaShem, we will discuss tonight. Now, it's not going to be a fun topic, but nonetheless, it is a topic we've discussed in the past. And it is a topic that you should all get used to. Because as Rav Wasserman has been telling us for the last several months, through his Ikveta the Mashiach, most of the leaders in the world before Mashiach comes are going to be bad shepherds. And unfortunately today we're seeing more and more of that. People love the movie. Leaders, if they're good, also love the movie. Unfortunately, some of them hate it. Why do they hate it? It contradicts their reality of everything is a kumbaya, everything is nice, love everybody, lovey-dovey, and as if there's nothing wrong in the world, as if millions of people are not dying either by killing each other or by some type of other disease that Hashem brought to the world. So this is something, Abotai, that we ourselves have to do something about. And again, it's not enough to just simply work on ourselves. We have to love each other enough to help each other, either by sharing the lectures and not doing what somebody told us earlier today. No, I don't want to go into other people's personal lives. That's not an option. It's not an option to do such a thing. You don't have to necessarily do it directly where you go and talk to people, but you have to care about other Jewish people, about other people in general, to at least give them an opportunity to educate themselves and get them out of the horrible situation that they're in society today. Because immorality has become standard. And one of the reasons is because people are afraid to be afraid of God, which is the most insane thing in the world. They don't mind watching scary movies. They don't mind being afraid of coronavirus. They don't mind being afraid of everything else, but being afraid of Hashem, people are afraid of that. They don't want to talk about it. And I'm not even talking about the regular people. I'm talking about the leaders that are teaching them. So this is something that we have to discuss because it's a situation that is getting worse by the day. And if you, the audience that are watching, for one reason or another you're watching this lecture, I'm assuming it's because you're interested in the material, or you're one of these Reshaim that just likes to pick apart the lecture and send me a few complaints. Either way, you have to do something about it for yourselves. Why? Because you are in charge of the circle that's around you. You have a few people around you. You have a wife, kids, husband, kids, neighbor, family members, and so on. You have to get the truth to them one way or another. It's not going to come to them by default. You cannot expect their local rabbi or leaders or politicians to bring them that truth. It's simply not going to happen. So it's important for people to know that there's a lot to do. We're doing everything possible. There's a new marketing campaign that was kicked off on this movie right from the get-go. It took the second step over the last couple of days. And step number 3, 4, and 5 are going to be ongoing. Each and every single step is investing more and more money into this. More and more money to market it on the internet. More and more money to make USBs, CDs, flyers, and so on and so forth. But again, people that are asking, can you send me the CDs? Can you send me this? Can you send me that? Yeah, and we need to obviously make them first and foremost, and we need more money. The point being is, you can sit and relax, do nothing. You can share it. That's at least something. Or you can do a little bit more than sharing it. TikkunAbrit.live is the campaign to donate over there. If you've already donated, don't think that you're done because, again, society, as long as it's horrible, we have to do something about it. Second thing is, in regards to Kimcha de Pischa, not really sure what's going on. Maybe everybody donated all their money in the previous campaign and figured I've donated enough to help the poor people and I've stopped poverty. But breaking news is we haven't stopped poverty. There's still a lot of poverty in Eretz Yisrael. Baruch Hashem, we had an extraordinary last several days with this Kimcha de Pischa, where we got a lot of food together, lots of families. I think we got to about 640, 650 families today. Giving them food, so you're talking about a little over 4,000, 4,500 people were fed today or given food today for the holidays, Baruch Hashem. But there's a lot more to go. We already sent $100,000 from the company's emergency funds to help the people because we knew we couldn't wait for the campaign to send money to the people because you need to order the food ahead of time. We need a whole lot more. For anyone that wants to get involved, this whole week is we're going to have the campaign going, and even during Chol HaMoed, we're going to have the campaign going because, like I said, poverty is unfortunately also a standard. In different parts of Israel, in America and other places, we're focusing on Israel. Once we feed the 1 million plus children that are going to sleep hungry every day in Israel, we'll start focusing on America also. But we need to help as many people as possible. This is a time that I know everybody's got a lot of expenses. It's very hard to come up with enough Yetzirah Tov to push yourself to donate. But like I said, it's if a person has the funds, instead of investing into more stocks, into more bonds, into more real estate, into more other stuff, take a chunk of money and invest into your own people. Take a chunk of money into investing into Hashem's people, because again, if you do for Him, as you become a partner with Him. As Zohar Kadosh says that anyone that feeds people at the time of Pesach is a partner with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So it's a good partner to have. So with those two things, you have the Tikkun Abrit.live campaign you could donate to. You have the BH Pesach, BHPESACH, Pesach.org. That's another campaign that we have. It's a Kimcha de Pischa. Or you could just simply go to our website, BeEzrat and you'll find both of those campaigns there. Or you could just do nothing and don't donate a single dollar and call me money hungry as if I'm taking all of this money for myself and make up all the different names that people like to make up. Fine. Either way, we have Torah to learn and we have to move forward. Now, last week we started with Parashat Vayikra. Vayikra is the beginning of Sefer Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. The book of Leviticus is perhaps the most difficult to learn out of all 5 books of Moses, simply because unlike Bereshit, Shmot, Bamidbar, Deuteronomy, Sefer Dvarim, it doesn't have many stories. It's not like a Bereshit where you have the stories of the different patriarchs and matriarchs, and you have Yetziat Mitzrayim and Exodus and everything that happened throughout. No, Vayikra, barely any stories. You have a little bit of stories where you have the sons of Aaron getting killed. Parashat Bechukotai, we get a bunch of curses if we don't follow the Torah. But quite frankly, the rest of Sefer, the entire section of Leviticus, is Tumah v'Tara, purity, impurity, different laws. Very, very difficult to learn the intricate details of it. Perhaps the most difficult part of the entire Torah, not just in the Chumash, but anyone that learns Tumah v'Tara in the Gemara, it is your brain breaks into 50 pieces. I only know a couple of Talmidei Chachamim that actually enjoy this part, to like the same way that they enjoy like Gan Eden. Like it's a very special people. It's a very difficult topic, but nonetheless, it is a topic that the Chachamim say, this is where you're supposed to start teaching little babies. You teach them, these pure babies, you teach them about purity. Hold on a second. I just said what the Chachamim said, which is Sefer Vayikra, the entire Sefer, entire section of the 5 books of Moses, this whole section of Leviticus, most difficult. Most difficult. Purity, impurity, this is pure, that's not pure, da 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 da. Chachamim also say that, but they also say this difficult section is where you start teaching little babies. You would think, logically, with our little puny brains, that, wait a minute, shouldn't you just teach them Genesis? The world was created by Hashem. He created the sun and the moon and the stories. Then you have Moshe. And, kids like stories. Kids like drawings. They want to, make everything into a picture and then maybe take some clay or plastilina or something, play with it, make some figures, all that. What are you going to teach them about purity and impurity? The adult can barely understand it. Why are you going to teach it to little kids? This first concept, Rabotai, is very important for every single person, every single Jew to understand, and needless to say, anyone that wants to be a Jew to understand. Torah is something that you toil for, but in order to acquire it, you have to toil to the point where HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides to give it to you. You're not going to acquire it because you have such a good memory. You're not going to acquire it because you donated a ton of money. You're not going to acquire it for any other reason that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides to give it to you, because it's worth it for him to give it to you because he sees that you love it. He sees that you toil over it. He sees that you appreciate it. And that's why in the Gemara Masechet Brachot, Rabbi Yochanan says HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives wisdom to the wise. Why not wisdom to the fools? Because if he gave wisdom to the fools, they would not know what to do with it. Whereas the wise appreciate wisdom, and therefore when Hashem gives them the Torah, they know what to do with it. So if a person works on himself to purify themselves, make themselves into a better vessel by working on their character traits, shows that he appreciates the Torah, shows that he wants to follow it, and so on, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give him more Torah. Now, but one of the things that can destroy all Torah that you learn, eliminate any connection you have to what you learned, eliminate any appreciation for what you learned, eliminate any recollection of what you learned, even if it was just 15 minutes ago, is sins. Sins that make you impure. There are certain big sins, smaller sins, but the point being is that sins make a person impure. And that's why the Chachamim say, teach this difficult section of the 5 books of Moses, the most difficult, to the pure children. Why? Because although it's difficult, it's only difficult to you as an adult because you've made sins. And you made sins, and that makes you a more difficult vessel, if you will, to feed this purity. But the little child that hasn't made any sins, because he or she is less than 12 and 13 years old, especially young little boys, you teach them this stuff, and they're like sponges. They get it, they understand it, and they accept it. No questions asked. They'll ask you questions because of interest, not because they don't agree with it. You know, you tell somebody about purity and purity as an adult, no, come on, Rabbi, maybe it's this, maybe that. They argue with you about every single point. Tell a little boy, listen, this is pure, this is impure. Okay, what else? They don't argue. It's not that they're not smart. It's the opposite. They are smart enough and pure enough to accept it for what it is. This, Rabotai, is one of the valuable lessons that the Chazon Ish, Alav Shalom, has been trying to teach us over these last several weeks, where aside from having the basic level understanding of what Emunah and Bitachon is, Emunah, understanding that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the one and only that's running the world. Bitachon is understanding that the way that Hashem is running the world is the best possible way that exists. There is no better way. There was no other better circumstance available to us than coronavirus. There was no other better circumstance available to us than the Spanish Inquisition. There was no other better circumstance available to us than the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash or the Holocaust. Did we want those? No, we didn't want them. But out of the circumstances available to us at those times due to our actions, those were the best. That's what bitachon is. Bitachon is having a clarity of mind and a complete acceptance of the din shamayim, the judgment of heaven, that everything that he is giving me is indeed the best, even if it's painful. So the Chazon Ish says that in order for us to understand these things, we have to work on our character traits. We have to work on ourselves. We have to perfect ourselves. And the question comes up, should we only focus on MUSSAR? Should we just learn MUSSAR? Should we just learn how to better ourselves, become less angry, become more generous, become less arrogant, and all of the different deformities that we each have in our own character? Shouldn't we just focus on MUSSAR and that's it? Chazon Ish says absolutely not. Why? MUSSAR without HALACHA leads to evil. MUSSAR without HALACHA leads to evil. Because a person can think that he is a ethical person, but only ethical according to his understandings, and only through his or her learning of what is allowed versus what is not allowed according to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his sages, will they know whether their judgment of ethics is correct. So with that being said, so far we have covered the first 8 sections of the 3rd chapter. We're now starting the 9th section. In the words of Rabbi Yisrael Misalant, says the Chazon Ish, he brings Rabbi Yisrael Misalant's teachings, preceded him by about 100 years. In the words of Rabbi Yisrael Misalant, on this matter, in his letter, this is very pertinent. I mean, his whole teachings of what we just discussed and what I briefed you on and understanding everything is very pertinent. Why? Why does he say this? Rabbi Yisrael says in his words, in prohibitions of unkosher meat, in mixtures of milk and meat, man is ruled by habit. He naturally recoils from forbidden. And he's not overwhelmed by his evil inclination. In so many words, Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says, when it comes to kosher, if somebody tells you, if you obviously are not brand new to Judaism, you've been a Jew, observant Jew, either your whole life or for a while already, 5, 10, 20 years, you get to a point where kosher is not even a problem. It's not even something you think about. It just comes naturally to you, especially if you've been religious your whole life. Why? Because that's what you know. And in fact, you were brought up in a certain way when somebody offers you want to go to McDonald's, eat some bacon, egg, and cheese? Immediately you're like, what? You're joking, right? What are you talking about? Pig? Me eat pig? Chas v'shalom. Chas v'shalom. I've never eaten pig. Oh, you want to eat cheeseburger then? No pig. Just cheeseburger? No, what are you, insane? Immediately you recoil. You're like, what's wrong with these people? That's a normal Jew, or at least supposed to be. Why? Because this Jew has learned throughout their life that there are certain things when it comes to kashrut, Jews are not allowed to eat milk, dairy and meat at the same time. If they eat meat, they have to wait 6 hours before they eat dairy. If they eat dairy, they have to simply wash their mouth and then they could eat meat right after that. They don't have to wait any time. Some are more stringent and wait a little bit, but there's no need for stringency, halachically speaking. There are certain animals that are permissible. There are certain animals that are forbidden. Any animal that has chews its cud and has split hooves, that's an animal that qualifies to be kosher. Now, it's not kosher just by being that animal. It has to be slaughtered in a kosher way also. So if it has the chews its cud and has split hooves, and it's slaughtered in a kosher way by a Shomer Shabbat Jew, then you can cook that meat and eat it and enjoy it, no problem. On the other hand, if that kosher animal is slaughtered by a Mechalel Shabbat, a Jew that desecrates Shabbat, or a non-Jew, the animal is not kosher. Not kosher. Even if he's the best butcher in the world, the animal is not kosher. If the person that's slaughtering the animal is not kosher, according to Judaism, the animal is not kosher. Or worse yet, if the animal itself is not kosher, such as the pig, or the bats, or frogs, all of these other animals that exist in the world that are permissible to the non-Jews, but to the Jews are forbidden. So the average Jew knows everything I just told you. I'm not bringing you anything new. And in fact, he's asking, why is he even talking about this? This is like first grade. Why are we wasting our time? What is this, like, this shiur is for first graders? That's exactly the point. The average Jew, when you start talking to them about the issues of kashrut, there's no problem. There's no problem. There's no chance of me eating pig tomorrow or any other time in the near future. And that's exactly what Rabbi Yisrael Misalant is saying. He has no yetzara. He's not overwhelmed by it. If you tell him, listen, the hotel does not have any kosher food, he doesn't even think twice about not going there. Why? Doesn't have kosher food. I'm not going there. Simple. The restaurant has no kosher food. I'm not even going to enter. I'm not even going to enter the place that has non-kosher food. Yeah, but you're not going to eat. Yes, I'm not going to eat, but it's not the reason I'm not going to enter. I'm not going to enter because I don't want anyone else to see a Jew with a yarmulke on or a Jew with the kisui rosh on sitting in a non-kosher restaurant, which could desecrate Hashem's name, or worse yet, lead them to believe that this place is kosher. Now you can say, yeah, but my rabbi has dinners with us at non-kosher places. He's not a rabbi. He's just a guy that, does business and he calls it Rabbanut. Any kosher Jew knows I do not enter a place that doesn't have non-kosher food. Simple. End point. And that's what Rabbi Yisrael says. That's the standard. Now, on the other hand, in matters between man and man, he sins blatantly and has no fear. Even when his fellow Jew sues him, he finds ways to avoid him and the trial. Here Rabbi Yisrael Misalant gives us an atomic bomb to our society today, needless to say his society in his age, but of course worse on ours. He says, your average Jew today that observes mitzvot, keeps Shabbat, has a shtreimel, has a beard, kisui rosh, whatever you want to call it. You talk to them about kashrut, everybody says, listen, I only eat this level of kashrut. Even during this giveaway, we're giving out hundreds of thousands worth of food to people. And guess what? We couldn't just give whatever we wanted. Why? The poor people, they're tzaddikim, they're avrechim. They say, hey, hold on a second. What are you going to give us? So, food. No. What kind of food? Kosher food. No, yeah, but what kind of kashrut? What do you mean, what kind of? It's meat. It's kosher meat. No. I don't eat any kosher meat. What do you mean? Wait, goy? I'm giving you kosher meat from Eretz Yisrael. No, I don't eat anything from Eretz. I only eat this kashrut. And you're like, Ribono shel olam. These people, they rather not eat than to eat the wrong kashrut. Tzaddikim. You think they're crazy? They're tzaddikim. Why? They stand for something. And each and every family was given what they follow. Made it a nightmare and a half logistically. But nonetheless, we're doing it. Why? Because they stand for something. We should stand for something also. The average Jew in the world, the religious Jew in the world, stands for a lot. You tell him kashrut, I don't eat every kashrut. I only eat this type of kashrut or that type of kashrut. If I'm Sephardi, if I'm Ashkenazi, if I'm this, if I'm that, that's the reality. Sometimes when people are new, they don't really know what they don't know, so they'll just simply eat anything that has a kosher stamp on it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. You're just starting out. But as people get more and more religious, kashrut is one of those things where everybody becomes picky, especially in Eretz Yisrael, where there is quite a few bodies when it comes to kashrut, especially the meat and so on. But Rabotai Yekarim, Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says to us with an atomic bomb message. He says you're worried about the kashrut so much that you have hundreds of organizations monitoring the food and you won't even eat from 99 of them. But yet when it comes to issues between you and your fellow Jew, you sin openly, carelessly, and in fact, when that other fellow Jew cries foul and wants to bring you to a bed din, you find an excuse not to show up. You find an excuse to avoid him. You find an excuse to simply eliminate any responsibility that you have for this Jew that you hurt. But the reality is, Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says, is that the prohibition of robbery is much more severe than the prohibition of eating non-kosher meat. For when it comes to robbery, even Yom Kippur does not stand to provide atonement. And as long as the object is not his according to the law, he is guilty of robbery. Here Rabbi Yisrael Misalant says this. He says, you see, you care about the kashrut of the food a lot. Chazak u'baruch. But how come you don't care about stealing from your friend when you gambled with him and you won, and then you realized, because you saw in a shiur, that Rabbi Reuven or some other rabbi that says the truth, that gambling is not allowed in Judaism. Needless to say, if you won, you're a thief. Why? Because he did not want to give you the money. Yeah, but we both agree to the rules. Doesn't matter. The Torah doesn't agree to the rules. The Torah forbids you from taking money from somebody else in gambling. It's considered stealing. How come you're not going to run back and give him back the money that you won? Oh, I need it. I'm going to pay rent. I'm going to pay this. Okay, so you're a thief. You're a thief. No, I need to use it to buy the matzah. Matzah is very expensive this year. I have to buy meat for Pesach. Okay, so all of the food you're going to eat for Pesach is all stolen food. You're going to eat stolen money. That's what you're going to do. No. What about the people who are not gambling? They also sometimes have blood on their hands. Why? Their business itself is gambling. The business itself is gambling. They're in a cash advance business, lending money at egregious, aggressive, and predatory rates to all types of people. Jews, non-Jews. They lend it to everybody that calls them. If you have a pulse, they'll lend you money. Even if you don't have a pulse, they'll lend you money. Just make sure the paperwork goes through somehow. They'll lend money to anybody with crazy rates that destroy the economy. You tell them, listen, it's not allowed according to the Torah. I've given you hours and hours of sources from the Torah that it's forbidden. You are in a business of stealing from society, from your Jewish brothers and your non-Jewish fellow men. You're stealing. You're going to bring a desecration of Hashem's name. You are doing damage to society. What do they say? Oh, come on, Rabbi, where other job can I get that's going to make me that kind of money? Oh, so you're okay with stealing then? No, it's not that I'm okay with stealing, they tell you. But listen, I need to make money. Judaism is expensive. Okay, so your entire seder, not just your matzot like the gambler, your entire seder, every bit of wine that you drink on Pesach is coming from stolen money. You are a thief. Thief. Everybody is eating, drinking stolen food thanks to you. And they're all going to get punished for it thanks to you. With the 25 guests that you have and 30 guests that you have, all of them are benefiting from your stolen money. No, come on, Rabbi, I have a bigger rabbi than you. Told me it's okay. You and him have a special place. How come you don't care? How come you don't care? Or the best yet, the people that steal in their ethical business from their own customers, partners, and employees. Not paying them on time, selling them stolen goods, selling them refurbished goods that's new, not paying at all types of other finagling that people do, or they call it hustling. What about those people? Same exact thing. You'll see some religious Jews there too. You'll see some non-religious Jews there. You'll also see some goyim, more goyim than everybody else. That's just simply statistics. But the point being is, we're not here to go teach the goyim how they should be honest in their business, although they should listen to this and do it. Our main focus is to teach the Jews to not be hypocrites. Why? Because if you're going to keep kashrut and only eat certain type of meat because it's your level of standards, and you're going to only drink a wine that only has a certain level of standards of kashrut, and you're only going to get the vegetables from only a certain provider that already checked certain things before you bought it, why don't you also worry about the stolen money and the blood you have on your hands? Rabbi Yisrael Salant is asking. I'm just repeating it and giving you a little bit more theatrics to come along. But you see, Rabotai Yekarim, although the sin of robbing from your fellow Jew or non-Jew is much worse than eating non-kosher, average person cares less. Average person will overcharge their client even if they know they can't do the job. They tell you, listen, $5,000 retainer, and we should be able to finish this job for $6,000. $25,000 later, listen, I didn't know it's going to be that much, even though he knew. He's just a liar. Listen, this should heal you. This surgery should heal you. He knows it's not going to heal him, but he still does it. He still cuts him up. $50, $60, $70, $150,000 later from the insurance company, maybe even from selling his house. Listen, it's tough luck. I've never seen a patient like this before. Thief. Borderline murderer. Every day you see them. That's why the Gemara says, Tov shebarufim legehenom. The best of the doctors goes to Gehenom. Why? He wants more people to be sick. He'll give unnecessary surgeries, unnecessary medicine, and all types of things. All of those people that are afraid of what Big Pharma is doing and Bill Gates and all of these yo-yos in society pushing medicine. Where were you a day before Corona? Would you just wake up? What do you think? Big Pharma just started making money today and pushing medicine on people? What do you think? The government became corrupt yesterday? What do you think? Bill Gates only started making money now? This has been going on for years. Wake up! Oh no, the New World Order. New World Order is hundreds of years old. It's mentioned in the Torah. Nothing is new. Nothing new under the sun. You may have discovered it now, but you're just screaming foul for no reason. Why? You should be screaming at the mirror. What did I do to deserve this? What did my society do to deserve this? Why is the Kadosh Baruch Hu bringing this to us? That's what we should do. It starts with reflection on ourselves. Do we have blood on our hands? Do we have stolen money in our business? Are we cheating our customers? Are we cheating on our spouse? Are we cheating on our children? Are we cheating on our partners in business? Are we cheating on Are we cheating on HaShem? Do we have blood on our hands? Yeah, we should also worry about kosher. But do we have blood on our hands? Why? Because when it comes to stolen money, Rabotai Karim, as Rabbi Yaron Reuven says, it's much worse than not eating kosher. Why? Because not eating kosher affects the body that ate non-kosher. And you say, I'm sorry for it, it's forgiven. Yom Kippur comes, you have stolen money in your hand, you can pray, not for 25 hours, you can pray for 1,000 hours straight. 3 years straight, Hashem will not forgive you for stolen money. Why? You have to get forgiveness from the person that you stole from. Needless to say, you have to return the stolen money. And if you can't return the stolen money because the person doesn't exist anymore, you can't find them, it's a company, it can put you at risk to go to jail and so on, there are solutions for that also. You have to give it to something that has to do with benefiting society. But the point being is, the first step is you have to want to do tshuva for that. Most people don't even think they did anything wrong. What do you mean, Rabbi? I'm just doing business. You're doing business by stealing from people. That's how you do business? Taking advantage of people, overcharging them, cheating them, lying to them? Listen, I'm just motivating him. That's not motivating. It's not motivating. Telling the guy that you can get your goods for $5,000 even though you know he's not going to leave your company before he spends $50,000. But you want to bait him with the $5,000. That's not selling. That's lying. And the reality is, Rabotai, this has become standard. Standard. So much so, I lived in a house while I was here in Florida. We're here in Florida. We had to move from the house. Why? Because there were so many problems in the house and the foundation of the house that was found. We knew that this house needs at least $150,000 worth of work. We weren't interested in buying the house. So we had to leave. The landlord sold the house to another person, literally within a couple of months after we left, for an even higher price than he bought it from just a month before we moved into there. The new owner doesn't even know of this $150,000 problem that he has. According to Judaism, that's mekach ta'ut. He's not allowed to do such a thing. He can actually force him to return the money. Worst part yet, that guy, the guy that sold the house, he pretends to be a rabbi. That's his day job. That's the reality of society. No one wants to take control of their own issues when it comes to money. But if you ask that rabbi, listen, is this kosher, is this not kosher? I'll tell you every halakha in the book. No, don't eat this, don't eat by this one, don't eat by that one. He'll tell you everything. But when it comes to money, all goes in the garbage. But that's not just with him. It's with a lot of people. Why? They don't understand the magnitude of their sin. And unfortunately, they're too glued to their sin sometimes. But here Rabbi Yaron Reuven says that until you return the money, until you get forgiveness from the person you stole the money from, even Yom Kippur cannot help such a person. So how come people are so used to making such a sin? Rabbi Yaron Reuven continues saying, but since there's no regular habit of observing this law of not stealing, his soul has not acquired love and fear of it. Here Rabbi Yisrael Misalan tells us the secret. Why are we so preconditioned to easily overcome our desires to eat non-kosher food? You see a McDonald's, you're not even looking at it twice if you're a kosher Jew. Well, you know by default, 99.999% of them, with the exception, I think, of a couple in the world, are non-kosher. Simple. And even the ones that are kosher, most, Jews that are Yireh Shamayim will not eat there either. Why? Because even the kashrut over there is not exactly at the upper echelon, at least to my knowledge from where it was a few years ago. Point being is that you already know, yeah, it may be tasty, it may be even delicious, it may be everything. It's not for me. Why? It's not kosher. You tell the guy, listen, want to put a nice juicy steak with some cheese on it for you? No chance. Why? It's not even a question. I was preconditioned. I've learned about it. I know enough about it that I love it. I love this rule. And I connect to it. Why do I love and connect to it? Because I've learned about it. But because they have not learned about stealing, they have not learned the laws of business, they have not learned Gemara, Baba Metzia, Baba Kama, Baba Batra, the Choshen Mishpat of the Shulchan Aruch, to the extent of knowing the details and intricate details of what it means to do business as a Jew, they simply have not acquired love for this mitzvah. Needless to say, they have no fear of violating this mitzvah. Rabbi Yisrael Misalan continues saying that even people whose good deeds obligate us to honor them and to number them among the God-fearing people, even such people sometimes fail, and that they try to avoid litigation. You sometimes even have overall kosher Jews. You could even call them rabbis, good rabbis, Yireh Shamayim rabbis. But sometimes even Rabbi Yisrael Misalan says, and the Chazon Ish repeats, that even sometimes they will fall for this trap of the Satan and try to avoid litigation, try to do something else. Why? This is an issue that people fall for on a regular basis. When it comes to money, it's even a pasuk in the Torah. It's even a pasuk in the Torah that people can get bribed and become blind, and the wise have their wisdom escape them. The main way to heal these illnesses of the soul is to delve into the halacha meticulously and go into all its details until these will instill in the person complete love of the law. So now, the Chazon Ish is saying that the only way to truly heal this spiritual illness of being an unethical business person, unethical with your fellow person, and other things, simply your relationships with people, you have no problem accepting help from people, but you also have no problem talking bad about them. That's an illness. That's a spiritual illness. If you spend half your day talking to your girlfriends or your friends, and if you're male, for sure, you're saying a lot of Lashon Hara. Why? You're either a genius in Torah, and you are the most well-spoken rabbi in the history of mankind, or you're saying Lashon Hara and Rechilut all day. One or the other. Why? It's not possible to talk that much without saying Lashon Hara. Simple. If you're talking on the phone all day, or you're with your girlfriends every single day, having coffee, having this, have all types of things, all day you're talking, for sure you're saying Lashon Hara about the very same people that sat on the table with you even. But you don't think much of it. Why? Why? She did it to you, you did it to her, no big deal. Rabbi Yisrael Misalan says that's because you have not learned the laws of Lashon Hara and the consequence of violating them. And therefore you have not fallen in love with the mitzvah, and therefore you're not even afraid of violating this mitzvah. And the only way to heal this illness of the soul is to delve into the halacha meticulously and to go into all of the intricate details until a person is instilled with love of the actual law. Rabbi Yisrael Misalant didn't view the general exertion in acquiring fear of God as the main thing, but rather the main thing is lacking if one has not learned and has not exerted himself to understand the halachot of Choshen Mishpat, which is the laws relating to judicial matters. And even if one has gone over the material quickly and superficially, He has not yet acquired what is needed in order to love the law and devote himself to it. So here, Rabbi Yisrael Misalant, the father of MUSSAR, the one that started the MUSSAR movement a couple of 100 years ago, here he's not saying, go study MUSSAR, it's going to solve all your problems. But rather, the reason why you're spiritually sick is because you're not learning HALACHA. Many people thought that Rabbi Yisrael Misalant only knew MUSSAR. That's a stupid thing to think. But nonetheless, many people thought that. When a group of young kids decided to be cute and try to test the rabbi by giving him 100 topics that they want him to talk about in a single lecture, he agreed. When he arrived at the lecture, they changed. Last minute, they changed the topics. He gave him the lecture as if it was the topics that he studied for. All different halachas, all different laws. He knew the entire Torah like at the back of his hand. He was a genius, not just in MUSSAR, but obviously in halacha. He was a genius in Torah. The point being is that some people think that if you just study MUSSAR, that's enough. Couldn't be further from the truth, as we've already learned from the Chazon Ish. But when you hear the master of MUSSAR say to you that you have to learn halacha, it has a little bit of a different weight to it. Why? Because now you have to understand, wait a minute, so is halacha more important than MUSSAR? Or is MUSSAR more important than halacha? The answer is neither one. Neither one. What's the answer? They have to go together. You have to study halacha and MUSSAR. MUSSAR and halacha. You cannot just study one or the other. You have to study both. Because if you study just MUSSAR, you will make bad decisions and cause harm to the people, especially the ones you love. If you only study halacha, you will never have Yirat Shamayim to follow the halacha. And that's why you see many times you have people that have studied a lot of halacha, but yet they make the biggest sins in the world. There's unfortunately a lot of heretics that like to make fun of Judaism, who themselves used to be formerly religious. They like to catch all of these different people that look religious, they usually Hasidish people, and they like to catch them all doing something that's against the Torah, against even human logic nonetheless. And they put it on film, on Facebook, and on all types of other social media to bring embarrassment to the Jewish people, embarrassment to HaShem and His Torah. Of course, they have a special place in Gehenom for doing what they're doing, but also the people that are making those sins have a special place in Gehenom. Why? Because they're also desecrating Hashem's name with their actions. The point being is, how could it be that somebody that's a rabbi or a religious person or anything else, how could he do such a thing and act this way? Because he has not learned enough MUSSAR, so despite the fact that he knows a lot of halacha, he doesn't have enough Yirat Shamayim to practice that halacha the way it's supposed to. Simple. Now this may sound too simple to believe, but that's really the reality. Now, there's a little bit of a deeper teachings that we want to go into that will give us a little bit of a perspective on some of the more extreme situations that we see in society today. You see, Rabotai, every day, each one of us mind our own business, we learn our Torah, we do our mitzvot, we run our businesses, we work for the companies, marriages, everything. Every one of us has stuff to do. If you're young still, and you haven't gotten married, you're still a kid, you go to school, you do your homework, everybody's got to do their thing. Satan also does his thing. His job is to do whatever he can to make you further from Hashem, to go further from Hashem. So, how does he do it? With all types of tools. Sometimes a billboard, a website, an app, a bad friend, a bad teacher, all types of bad. But that's his job, is to constantly bring those bad to you and make you believe it's good. So you can click there or go there or do whatever it is that you need to do in order to become one with this bad. Now the worst of it all is when that bad is viewed as good, not just by you, but by society at large, where that bad is viewed as people not only as good, but rather as the epitome of good, the example of good, the teacher of good. And for that I'm talking about a bad leader. Now, Rabbi Chaim Vital, in his Sefer Etz Chaim, he brings an extraordinary teachings to tell us some of the consequences of our actions. In Chelek Aleph, on the 5th page, section B, he says the following: what can we do that in our lowly generation, he's talking about his generation hundreds of years ago, 450 years ago, what can we do in our own lowly generation due to our sins that the Torah has become an axe to dig in the ground in order to get kavod, money, and position of Rosh YESHIVA and Dayanut? And really, the actions of those same people are like the generation of the Tower of Babel, where it is written, Na'aseh lanu shem, we'll make ourselves a name. Stop here for a second. Here, Rabbi Chaim Vital, one of the holiest people that ever lived, a Talmid of the Arizal. He's not writing about secular Jews, in case you haven't gotten the hint yet. He's not writing about secular Jews. He's not writing about Zionists. He's not writing about politicians. He's writing about the religious people. And not just any religious people, but rather the religious leaders, the rabbis of his generation. The people that learned Torah. In his generation, he says. In his generation, he says that what can we do that people, instead of learning Torah for the sake of heaven, instead of learning Torah in order to teach people to get closer to Hashem, instead of learning Torah in order to get ourselves closer to Hashem, what do people take the Torah for? They take it and they dig the ground with it. They use it like an axe to dig the ground, to break the ground. It's hard ground after winter. Dig, dig, dig. Not literally, but figuratively. Why? He says they take the Torah and they're not learning all of these halachot and all of this MUSSAR and all of this other teachings for the sake of helping Klal Yisrael get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. No, we live in a lowly generation, he says. We have people that are learning Torah in order to get a job as a rabbi, in order to be a famous speaker, in order to be a Rosh YESHIVA, in order to be the head Dayan. That's why they're learning Torah. But then you would say, wait a minute, but isn't that, what else is he going to do? He's got to make a living. Yes, you should become a Dayan if you have the skills and the knowledge to be a Dayan. You should be a Rosh YESHIVA if you have the skills, the ability, the knowledge to be a Rosh YESHIVA. But that's not the reason you should be learning. If you're only learning for the sake of that job that you want to get, the fame that you want to get, the kavod, the honor that you want to get, then you are no different, says Rabbi Chaim Vital, than the generation of the Tower of Babel, who said themselves, we will build ourselves a name. We'll build ourselves a tower to make ourselves a name. He says, this is the lowly generation we have. We have such rabbis that's what they want. They only learn Torah for the sake of a job, of notoriety, of a YouTube channel. That's what they do. Not because they want to get Am Yisrael closer to Hashem. Not because they care about the Torah. And then he continues. And he says, and their actions are like the people of the generation of the Tower of Babel, V'na'aseh lanu shem, with the actions, as the Zohar says in Sefer Bereshit, page 25b, about those people, regarding the 5 types of Erev Rav that exist. The third one on the list, says Rabbi Chaim Vital, is called the Giborim, which it is written on them, Hem HaGiborim asher me'olam anshe Hashem. These are the Giborim, the Torah says, from the world, the people of name, anshe Hashem. And they, he says, these Giborim that say that they are the men of name, of status, these Giborim, the Zohar says, are also from the Sitra Achra, the power of impurity in the world, that it's written about them. Let's make ourselves our name. It says, let's make ourselves a name on the generation of Tower of Babel. Na'aseh lanu shem. Na'aseh lanu shem, make ourselves a name. Same thing is the people of Anshe Hashem, the people of the name. Because people that only learn Torah for the sake of making themselves a name, he says these are the Sitra Achra, these are the Erev Rav, where they want to build a tower and make themselves a name in synagogues and in Bet Midrash with a Sefer Torah in it and have all of the Torah on its head, meaning all of the honor and the glamour on this Bet Knesset or the YESHIVA that they have, but not for the sake of heaven, but rather for the sake of their own names. On this group, the Gemara says, Kol ha'osek b'Torah shelo lishma, anyone who deals with Torah not for the sake of heaven, it was better for him to have choked under his mother's umbilical cord and never have come to the world. Gemara the Yerushalmi, Masechet Brachot, chapter 1, halacha number 5. Here Rabbi Chaim Vital talks about his generation, needless to say, us, our generation. He says there are some people that are talented. Hashem gifted them ability to speak, ability to learn, ability to communicate, ability to raise money, conduct business, and they chose their business, their trade to be Rabbanut. And they convinced people to donate millions of dollars to build another yeshiva and a Bet Knesset and another Sefer Torah, but they're not doing it to help the community. They're not doing it to help the people. No, they're doing it for their own status. They're doing it so they have a reputation and so on and so forth. And Rabbi Chaim Vital says, this is one of the 5 parts of the Erev Rav. What are the others? We had a shiur about this, but I'll remind you a little bit. The Zohar says in Sefer Bereshit that the Erev Rav will always try to make Am Yisrael weaker by causing them to sin, especially in the last generation before Mashiach. And there are 5 types of Erev Rav that exist. The Nephilim, the Anakim, the Giborim, the third one, Giborim, which we just talked about, the Rephaim and the Amalek. And the Giborim are those that learn Torah in order to build themselves with pride of arrogance. Whereas the Amalek are going to lead in the secular world. And also in the Torah world sometimes. And the end of the days, the Erev Rav, one of these 5 different descriptions, 5 different types of Erev Rav, will be the rulers and the heads and are full of corruptions. And the Malchut, the Rabbi Chaim Vital, says in the Etz Chaim, also what the Baal Shem Tov said, that many rabbis and leaders of communities will be Erev Rav at the end of days, and that's why he called them Rabbanim. That wasn't actually my thing. Some people think I made that up. It's actually here in the Sefer. He called them Rabbanim. Rabbanim means, even though it's rabbis, but Ra means evil. Evil sons, Banim. And the difference between the Erev Rav and Am Yisrael is that the Erev Rav have no mercy. They do whatever is necessary to get to their goal. Anything that works. So sometimes they'll tell you, no, don't listen to this rabbi. He's extreme. MUSSAR is not the way. It's scaring people and so on. You should love everybody. But never for a second are they reminded to listen to their own advice when they're saying bad things about the person that they tell you not to listen to. Didn't you just say, Mr. Teacher, that you should love everybody? So how come you're projecting so much hatred on this other teacher? Did you just say you should love all Jews? How come you're projecting so much hate on these religious Jews? Did you just say you should love everybody? How come you disagree completely with this? How come you only agree with the people and love the people that agree with you? That means you don't love everybody. You're a liar. That's the Erev Rav. If your rabbi says everybody is bad as long as if they don't agree with me, that's an Erev Rav. Now, if your rabbi is specific and tells you who, what, when, and how, okay, that may be teaching the Torah like Rabbi Chaim Vital is doing. Rabbi Chaim Vital is not saying everybody is bad. He's saying there are specific people. Specific people, if they have certain qualifications, they qualify to be the Erev Rav, the evil people that lead the last generation and have caused us a lot of trouble throughout the generations. So there's a difference between calling out specific people and calling out everybody. If you say anyone that teaches Chassidut or Mussar or anything else that's a kosher type of teachings is bad, that shows that you're not good. Because you're posel. You're canceling out people for no reason. But if you're specific, oh look, he is teaching things that are wrong. Simply teach things that are against the halacha. Like we mentioned, the guy Weinberger, he tells people that there is no such thing as people getting punished, and that say there's no fire in Gehenna, and all types of things that are heretical. Same thing like Manis Friedman and some of the other clowns that we've mentioned in the past. These people, we've highlighted specific things that they do that are against halacha, according to all standards, not just according to us. According to all standards, halacha from the Shulchan Aruch. When somebody does something like that, that's a person that causes the public to sin. That's an Erev Rav. Now, what drives a person to be such a thing? Now, you could say, yeah, it's money. But it's not necessarily always money from the get-go, because in the beginning, they don't all necessarily make a lot of money. In the beginning, usually they're like everybody else, just trying to do something productive in the world. So comes Rabbi Chaim Vital and continues about this Erev Rav called the Giborim, where he says that those people, those very same people that toil, that deal with Torah, but not for the sake of heaven, it was better off that they would have died in their mother's womb. On the other hand, the Gemara in Masechet Sotah says, Kol halomed Torah shelo lishma, the person that learns Torah but not for the sake of heaven, it's good that he learned because mekom shelo lishma ba lishma, because even though he starts learning Torah not for the sake of heaven, he's either scared of sins or he's learning it for some other alternative agenda. It's still good that he's learning. So what's the difference between the two? Gemara Masechet Sotah and the Yerushalmi here, by Rabbi Yochanan. What's the difference? The difference is that one is saying someone that's learning Torah not for the right reason. He doesn't even know what's the reason yet. It's still good for him to learn because eventually he'll arrive at the right reason. The other one is Osek B'Torah. Someone is doing business with the Torah as a leader, as a teacher of some kind. That's a problem. That's a problem. If you're already doing business in a place of Torah, you're beyond just learning Torah. So the question is, why does the Erev Rav, first and foremost, we always ask this question, and we have an answer, Baruch Hashem, B'siyata Dishmaya. Why does the Erev Rav always have so much money? Erev Rav, already written that they can have a lot of money. They have the buildings, they have the networks, they have a lot of stuff, power and so on. How come they always? So the Zohar says in Sefer Bereshit, Amalek attacks the Mechalel Shabbat first. Amalek attacks the Mechalel Shabbat first. So what does Amalek do? What does he kill people? Yeah, sometimes he kills people, but not just physically, spiritually. One of the jobs of Amalek is to cool off the people. So these Amalek, these Erev Rav, all synonymous, just different types of Erev Rav, wicked people that call themselves leaders and sometimes have a position and a job they call rabbi, these people, they attack, meaning cool off, the Mechalel Shabbat. Sometimes it's the new Baalei Tshuva. Person just started doing tshuva, he wants to come to the Knesset, he wants to come to shiur, and the rabbi says, oh, who are you? Where'd you come from? He says, oh, listen, Rabbi Reuven, shiurim, I've been watching it for a while, he helped me, I started keeping Shabbat, and of course this Erev Rav, his horns come out, he's thinking business, wait a minute, if he's listening to Rabbi Reuven, that means that he's going to donate to him. If he's going to donate to him, he's not going to donate to me. That's his calculation. If he's going to donate to him, he's not going to donate to me. No. Okay, so what does he do? Job number one, let's distance him from Rabbi Reuven. Or whatever other rabbi got him to start going to that shul. Why? He's focusing on money. Better yet, if the guy didn't come from us, he's simply going to shul for 20 years driving on Shabbat. How come he's driving on Shabbat to all these places? Because the Erev Rav rabbi will never say anything to him. Why? By saying something to him that he's not allowed to drive on Shabbat, what is he doing? He's going to help him do tshuva. That's not the job of the Erev Rav. It's the opposite. He's going to tell him he's a tzaddik, he's perfect, he continued driving. Listen, one guy just told me, listen, I stopped coming to shul, I stopped going to shul, but the rabbi keeps calling me to come to shul, and I keep telling him I can't come. He says, why not? He says, because the shul is far away from me, I can't come. I have to drive if I come. He goes, okay, so drive, it's good for you to come, it's good for you. The rabbi is telling him to drive on Shabbat, Ribono Shel Olam. What a poor guy, misken, what a difficult test he has. The rabbi is telling him to drive. And this is not the first or the second or the fifth guy. I've heard this story so many times in so many different places. Why? Erev Rav is everywhere, Rabotai. I had one guy today tell me, listen, you're telling me a lot of stuff. It's confusing me. I said, why is it confusing you? He said, I don't know. It's the exact opposite of what the other rabbi told me. I said, listen, the other rabbi tell you sources? Did the other rabbi show you lectures that actually give you 20, 30, 50, 100 sources from the Torah to justify? He goes, no, not even a single one. I never heard what a source is until you said it. I said, okay, so go check his, ask him what the sources are. He goes, no, deep down inside I know it's true. I said, okay, so what's confusing? He goes, what's confusing is the fact that I have to change if I listen to you. Okay, so that's your own issue. It's not the other rabbi's issue. The rabbi we already know he's a liar. That's the reality, Rabotai. That's the reality. There's a lot of that in the world. A lot of that in the world, and each person has to stop coming up with excuses and blaming the bad rabbis. I'm telling you about the bad rabbis in order to warn you, but also to remind you not to use them as an excuse. You know, and you have the ability to know what's right and wrong. Now, if you ask yourself, how come this famous Weinberger or Goldberg or Friedman, which somebody told me that Manis Friedman has the same gematria as Alma de Shikra, the world of lies, same numerical value. How come they choose to stay in this world of lies? Why they choose? Because my own dear friend, Alav Shalom, Rav Zarnel, told me he knows Erev Rav Rabbi Friedman from many years ago. He says he used to be good. I don't know what happened to him in the last 10 years. So what happened? Now we're going to get the answer from Rabbi Chaim Vital, who got it from his Rav, the Arizal. What's the answer? First and foremost, we know that the Erev Rav attack the Mechalel Shabbat. They want, because Mechalel Shabbat, they pacify them, the Mechalel Shabbat gives them a lot of money. Fine. The Tikkunei HaZohar, Tikkun number 21, page 42a, says, who is the boss of the Erev Rav? Who is the boss of the Erev Rav? By default, all of us will have the same answer and we're all wrong. We're all saying, oh, Satan. Wrong. Wrong. Why? You'll see. In Bereshit, chapter 1, section 5. On the pasuk that says, Al choshech kara laila. On the night he called Laila. The Zohar says that there's a governance in the exile for the klipa that is similar to the darkness of Laila, the darkness of night. And so long as we are in the exile, meaning there's no Bet Mikdash, there's no Mashiach, as long as we are in the exile, it is going to be, the exile is going to be under the control, which the exile also includes modern day Israel. Don't be mistaken in thinking that if you live in Israel, you're not subject to everything I'm saying. This is the whole world. The whole world as we know it right now is considered the exile. And this exile has a governance that's under the klipa. That's the one that's enforcing the most power. Hashem's power is hidden. He's giving the power that we see on day to day by the world of lies, by the klipa. And that klipa is like similar to darkness of the night. And it's in the, that's the one that's in control in this alma de kasya, which is the covered world. The world is like covered, the truth is covered from the world. What's an example of this? Rabbi Ephraim says an example is simply, you look at a good video, Torah video, amazing chidushim, kodesh kodeshim, 20 views on the internet, 200 views. If it got to 1,000, you do a halel. Yeah, wow, ishtabach shimo, wow, this good kosher Torah video got to 1,000 people. In reality, it's not 1,000, it's probably more like 300 that saw the same video 3 different times. Good video. Stupid video, some idiot giving away money to a bunch of strangers, or a duck crossing the road, or some heretic saying all types of nonsense. 18 million views in 24 hours. That's Alma de Kasya. That's the covered world. That's what, in essence, it's an illusion. It's an illusion that, in essence, Hashem obviously is running the show, but he's allowing the darkness of the klipa to, in essence, show that it's as if it's in control. As if it's in control. And who is the boss of this Laila? Who is the boss of this klipa? Who is the boss of the Erev Rav? Who is the boss of Amalek? Who is the boss of the Giborim? Who is the boss? The boss, Rabotai Yekarim, is none other than L-I-L-I-T, the wife of the Satan. And she is the mother of the Erev Rav, as it is written in the book of Job, chapter 7, verse number 9. Whoever is caught by her tum'ah cannot be freed. And also in Proverbs chapter 2, verse 19, Kol ba'ea lo yeshivun. Anyone that goes to her cannot come back, cannot return. And here it says that despite the Erev Rav, sometimes you'll have an Erev Rav not want to be an Erev Rav anymore. He is a rabbi. He sees, listen, I've been taking advantage of people for so long. I want to leave. I want to start saying the truth. What happens? Can't come back. Why can't he come back? Everyone's allowed to do tshuva. You're right. Everyone's allowed to do tshuva. But the verse here says something scary as scary can be. He says, anyone that goes to her, anyone that goes to the wife of the Satan, becomes one of our soldiers in the army of the Erev Rav, is too glued in, cannot come back. He's too tied to her monetarily, spiritually, physically, all types of things. There's some type of connection that will always keep him in. He can't leave. Meaning, there is no tshuva for the Erev Rav leaders. There is no tshuva. Don't go to Friedman and tell him the truth thinking he'll do tshuva. Don't go to Moti and Eitan from One for Israel, Imach Shimam V'Zichram, and think you're going to help them do tshuva. Can never be. They will never do tshuva. Cannot be. The world has to be turned over 50 times. For that. Why? They cause too much damage in the world. They've become part of the klipa. Part of the klipa. That's what the Zohar is saying here. And one of the things you'll see that even if an Erev Rav grows older, you figure, listen, you're 6 months away from being in diapers, Mr. Erev Rav. What do you care so much about honor anymore? What do you care about place? You'll see that the desire for money and honor doesn't diminish a bit. In fact, it only increases with time. Despite the Erev Rav being successful, having buildings, having notoriety, having all types of status, they still fight for more honor, for more kavod. Like this clown over here that when I moved over here and I was looking for a place, somebody told me, why don't you call this other rabbi? So I called him and said, oh, listen, I heard you have some space, that you moved and so on. He said, wait, you moved here? I said, yeah. Why didn't you call me first and ask me if you can move here? This is an actual real person said this to me. And he didn't stop yelling at me for 20 minutes, but because there was somebody else on the line, it was a three-way call, I didn't really want to put him in his place. I wanted him to make a fool of himself. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. He is like fuming out of his eyes and ears. Why didn't you call me and ask me permission before you moved here? Don't you know that I've been here for all of these years? I said, the place is 11 square miles. Even if the place that you have is 10 times bigger, can't serve all the people. Why didn't you call me? And you think this is the first time? Anyone that's been watching my lectures knows this is definitely not the first time or the second time. All of these Erev Rav, they want territory. They think they own the city. They own the world. Why didn't you call me, ask me for permission? No, you need to, before you move here. What do you mean? I'm a Jew. You're a Jew. I'm a teacher. You're a teacher. What do you care if I teach? Aren't you supposed to help the Jewish people? No, I'm good. I don't need you to come here. This is the mentality of Erev Rav. Even if they're literally 6 months away from being in a nursing home. Why? It's not enough kavod. They want more. They want more. And you can never give them enough. Because even if you say, okay, yeah, I'm sorry, no problem, I'm sorry I asked, why don't I just meet you? You go, you meet them. You tell them all types of compliments. Wow, chazak u'boch, you did, great, da-da-da, maybe we can work together. Still no. Why? Erev Rav. There's a delusional mentality that exists in the world, naive, if you will. I also had it. And sometimes I still do. That thinks that there is peace between us and the Erev Rav. And unfortunately, it cannot be. There is no peace. There is no peace between anyone that is going to be a kosher Jew and the impurity of the world. They cannot coexist. Just like the Jews cannot coexist with the Palestinians under peaceful terms. Just like we cannot coexist with the Amalek under peaceful terms. Just like we cannot coexist with anyone that's antithetical to the Torah under good terms. Cannot coexist. You could have quiet moments from time to time, but it cannot be a long-term thing. Simply can't. Why? The Tum'ah and the purity, the Kedusha, cannot coexist. There is no peace. But sometimes you'd like to believe maybe you can make peace, maybe this, maybe that. Not possible. Simply not possible. So the Zohar continues, says the Rabbi Chaim Vital, that during the exile, all of the 70 nations and the Erev Rav will be the leaders among Israel. They will be in control of us. As it says in Lamentations, Echa, chapter 1, verse 5. But the ones that will cause Am Yisrael the most trouble will be the Erev Rav. Meaning here Rabbi Chaim Vital says it's not Hitler that will cause Am Yisrael the most damage. It's not Haman that will cause Am Yisrael the most damage. It's not the president of any country that will cause Am Yisrael the most damage. But rather, it's ourselves, our own brothers and sisters that are part of the Erev Rav that have sold their souls to the wife of the Satan. Your conquerors, your destroyers will come from within you, says the Navi. As it says in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 23, Saraich sorerim v'chaveraich ganavim kulo oev shochad v'rotzef salmonim. Your leaders are rebellious, Isaiah says, and associates with of thieves. Each of them love bribery and pursues payments. It says, you want a clear proof of who's Erev Rav, who's a bad leader? Isaiah says the following. They're thieves. How do you know they're thieves? All they care about is who has the most money. If he has the most money, he could be a reform, and they'll give him an aliyah on Shabbat. Like this one clown in England gives a aliyah on Shabbat to a reform rabbi in his shul now for the last several months. As a Kohen. The guy's a reform rabbi. He's openly a heretic against the Torah. He gets an aliyah of a Kohen in a synagogue in England. Happening all over the world. Not picking on England. It's everywhere. People are giving aliyot to all types of people that are not even allowed to get aliyah at all. Why? Money, notoriety, kavod, business. They love bribery and they pursue payments. They pursue money. Wherever they can make the most amount of money, that's where they go. So here we see, Rabotai, in the name of the Rabbi Chaim Vital, brings the words of the Arizal, the words of the Zohar, the Gemara, the prophets, that the whole issue of the Erev Rav is not something that you can simply avoid and play dumb. Something that you can simply just ignore as if it's nothing. It's one of those things where a person needs to know that the holier you're going to try to make yourself, the more difficulty you're going to have with certain types of people that you have in your community. Every community has a bad apple or two. Every community. So unless you prepare yourself that in your elevation in holiness, your elevation in your servitude of Hashem, you are also preparing yourself to battle against the naysayers. When you want to make yourself holier, expect the Erev Rav to show up. Hello, what are you doing? What do you think you're doing in our community thinking you're becoming more religious? What are you, crazy? Expect that. In different words. And sometimes it'll come from the rabbi himself. Sometimes it'll come from the rabbi himself. And the rabbi will misquote different parts of the Torah and tell you, no, but the Stipler said this, and the Rav Hudner said this, and this one said that. No, he's showing you them saying that, but he's not showing you the whole paragraph or the whole writing of where they said also everything that we're saying in a million times more. He's just saying that one time that they said this, and he's taking it out of context, and he knows that you're not yet at the level to really read everything. You're just trusting his word because he has a beard and a hat. This is what's happening. If you allow this Erev Rav to control the conversation by simply taking their word at face value and not double checking it, you've already lost the battle. And you're not going to be able to serve Hashem at a higher level. You may not even survive serving Hashem at all. Why? The Erev Rav will attack you. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time. He will attack you. But one of the things that can help you, give you special protection, is to make yourself kadosh with extreme measures in the things that you can do, that don't necessarily require you to involve this Erev Rav. And that's your relationship with others, your family, your friends, assuming they're not Erev Rav themselves. You see, Rabotai, what Rabbi Yisrael Misalant told us here, and what the Chazon Ish is mentioning, is that often we are all very careful in our avodat Hashem, in our servitude of Hashem, to keep kosher, to watch a shiur, to do all types of things. But when it comes to relations with other people, we take those things for granted, and in fact, we get used to the sins. This is the area we have to work on. This is the area we have to work on, because in the name of that tshuva that you're doing, that chizuk that you're doing, all the different things that you're doing to elevate yourself, you're not going to be able to survive without making yourself holier. Simply not going to survive. Now, of course, you can continue, if you think that you're ready for war, you can continue reading what the Arizal wrote and what the Rabbi Chaim Vital wrote, where he says you want to make yourself more pure. You have to have pure thoughts. You have to have emunah tmima, which is simple emunah, blind faith, toil in Torah, which are all things you have to do. But there are other things that you not only have to do, but you need to do in order to survive the status that you're already in the first place. And that's your relationship with other people. You see, many times you see that you are on a straight path to get yourself holier, do more stuff, do more good. And what ends up happening is that you see that some parts of your family and peers and so on, they're really not doing it. In fact, some of them are staying behind. Some are simply careless. And what ends up happening is that if you don't watch yourself, you start canceling people out. Yeah, my cousin, yeah, he's a rasha. Oh, my son, oh, he's a piece of garbage. Oh, my wife, oh, yeah, she's this, she's that. You just cancel people out. Why? Because they don't see what you see. They don't see the truth like you see. So what do? You just abandon them. That's not the good way to do it. That's not what we teach. The people that we tell you to run away from are not people that simply sin. Everyone sins, including you before you did tshuva, including you after tshuva. Everyone sins. En tzaddik shelo yichta. Everyone sins. No one's saying to just cancel out people because they sin and be the judge and jury of society. Because he sins, I'm simply never going to talk to him again. No. If he sins, that makes him a human being. It makes him a human being. I'm not saying it's good. I'm saying it makes him a human being. Your job as a fellow Jew is to try to bring him along. And you say, yeah, but he doesn't want to. Fine. Try again. And again. And again. Why? Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent you several people and several videos and several CDs and several opportunities until he finally got you to do tshuva and get closer to Hashem. Don't be so selfish and so self-centered to think that, oh, listen, I'm on the path and that's it, I'm just going to leave everybody behind. Because what ends up happening is that a person starts doing tshuva and he starts hating everybody else around him. His parents, his kids, his wife, the husband. Everybody he hates that's not like them. And it's not fair and it's not right and it's not derech Torah. You have to understand that sometimes people are sinning not because they hate God, but simply because they don't know God. They don't know what's required of them. And after you've learned all of the things about the Erev Rav and the misteachings that they're getting, you have to also understand that as long as they are not going against you, where they're not trying to cool you off, you actually have a responsibility to warm them up. But if they have a trait in themselves of Amalek, of Erev Rav, where they don't want you to be religious, and in fact, they try to cool you off, they try to send you to church, they try to get you to marry someone that's not Jewish, they try to get you to do all types of things that are against the Torah. I'm not talking about not being supportive, I'm talking about being against it, then of course you have to run away from them. But if they're simply ignorant, but they're supportive, like, listen, you do you, and I'm just going to continue with me, you actually have a responsibility to help that person and be patient with them. It's part of your own servitude of Hashem. You can't just abandon society thinking that you're going to become Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai in a cave. Now again, this is not from day one. In the beginning, you have to work on yourself to get yourself strong enough before you help others. And generally speaking, I always tell people, help others indirectly, not directly by giving them CDs, invite them to lectures. Don't spend so much time talking yourself because you still haven't learned enough. But nonetheless, don't be a lone soldier simply abandoning your society and thinking that the world doesn't exist. Try to stay in touch, but from afar, from a distance. I'm not saying stay in the same community, in the same house, with the same bad roommates. Move on, get married, do what you got to do, and, obviously live a religious Jewish life, but stay. Send an email, send a text message from time to time. Try to help the people that are in the past. Get to a point of seeing what you see in the present. Try to get those people. Don't just cancel them out. The same thing goes with parents. Many times you have parents, they're religious, they keep everything, and they see that one of their sons or daughters decides that they don't want Torah anymore. They want to go and make sins. Usually, their reason why they leave Torah is because, number one, they don't know much of it. They've been taught the wrong way. And number two, they have desires, usually immorality, sex, and the likes, if you will. That's what leads people to go off the derech. It's not the right way for parents to just simply disown them and say Kaddish, and that's it, that kid doesn't exist to me anymore. That's not the right way. First and foremost, you're teaching your other kids to simply, anyone that doesn't go our way, died. That's not the right way. Why? Because if God treated you that way every time you sinned, guess what? You would never be able to do tshuva in the first place. And you're also teaching your kids that forgiveness is not part of Judaism, which is the exact opposite. To teach that forgiveness is not part of Judaism is actually a character trait of the Erev Rav. The Erev Rav doesn't have mercy. So the key is, yes, you have to understand that there is a child, chas v'shalom, but there is a child, there is a bad apple, there's a kid that's not following the halacha. But as long as that kid is not trying to influence the other kids to go his way or her way that's against the Torah, you have to try to get that kid to spend more time with you and influence him to get back. Even if that means that you have to play along a little bit and talk about things you don't really want to talk about. Socialize with him in a way that you don't really want to socialize with him. Go to the park instead of going to the kollel. Talk to him about, some sport that he wants to talk about instead of talking about Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Why? Because again, you're trying to keep that kid from going too far. That's exactly what Yitzchak Avinu did with Esav. He knew Esav wasn't good. A blind person knew Esav wasn't good. Everybody knew Esav wasn't good. But Yitzchak loved Esav, meaning he spent a lot of time with him so he doesn't get worse. Had he let him go, he would have gotten much worse. So, as long as that kid does not have the traits of the Erev Rav, the Amalek that want to destroy Am Yisrael, and he's not one of these people that has websites against the Torah and against the rabbis, against everything, and he just simply has desires, try to keep him closer. I would say even spend more time with him than you spend with the other kids that are doing better. Why? He needs more help. He needs more help. She needs more help. Why? Because obviously they're spiritually injured. They're spiritually injured. Try to find out what's going on. Now, if you don't have the time because of all the worries that you have in life, find somebody that does and pay them as much as you possibly can to get them to do the job. Why? Because if you don't, somebody else is going to give him that attention. And that somebody else could be the Erev Rav itself. That somebody else could be the Amalek itself. So it's important for people to know that although we speak against the Erev Rav, the bad people, that's not everybody that sins. The ones that we generally focus on are the people that cause other people to sin. The ones that go against the Torah for their own agendas. The ones that have a special mission to destroy Judaism. What ends up happening sometimes when you abandon kids that or different people that don't really have a bad agenda, but they just don't understand what obligation they have in the world. They got taught some Care Bear Judaism where there's no real consequences. And they decide that they don't want to keep Shabbat anymore. And all of a sudden their parents wake up, oh, how could you do this to us? He's not doing it to you. It has nothing to do with you. He's doing it for himself. He doesn't know why you're keeping Shabbat in the first place. Why? Because you keep Shabbat, but then you go to a baseball game and you go to a casino and you steal in your business. So it doesn't match in his head, which he's right. It doesn't match. He sees that you're a hypocrite, so he doesn't want to be a hypocrite. So he doesn't want to keep Shabbat. To just abandon that kid, you know what you're going to do? You abandon that kid, you're going to turn him into an Erev Rav. In many cases. Why? Because now he not only saw the hypocrisy that led him to where he was, to leave it all, but now he sees that it's not only hypocritical, it's evil. You just abandoned me just because I don't have the same beliefs as you. Now he's going to hate Judaism. And that's actually what happens many times. Many times those people that create these websites that are against the Torah, it's not only because they never learned the right way, but they actually learned things that are the opposite of the right way from the people that they trusted the most, the people they relied on the most. So it was a double whammy. All of it coming from the same Satan and his wife. You have to be very careful to know that when it comes to the Torah, you don't just treat the rules that you like as the most important, but rather you have to look at every rule in the Torah as if it's the most important. You have to celebrate every single part of the Torah as if it's the most important. We learned from the Gemara, Abaye celebrates. You see him happy in the Gemara. He says, why are you happy, Abaye? He says, oh, I'm putting on tefillin. Chachamim say Abaye would celebrate on everyday mitzvah, tefillin, like as if he won $1 million. The Arizal says that's the way to serve Hashem if you want to arrive and get to any real spiritual status. You have to celebrate, but every mitzvah, not just the ones that you like and it's easy for you and so on. Even more so when it has to do with personal relationships. Many times people simply care less about personal relationships that don't agree with them. Sometimes it's with a rabbi that tells them something they don't like. Okay, he's a bad rabbi. Even though he's a good rabbi, he just told you something that's truthful that you don't like. Sometimes it's a parent. You don't like the parent. Why don't you like the parent? The parent doesn't let me do what I want to do. Okay, but maybe they're right. Sometimes it's a partner in business. No, this guy's up. Every curse under the sun. Why? What happened? No, he wants 55% of the partnership. Okay, but does he deserve 55%? That doesn't matter. I deserve also. Wait, hold on. But why don't we look at the actual fact? Maybe he does deserve 55% and not 45%. Or maybe he does. Automatically everybody turns into a bad. No, that's not the way of Judaism. There are bad people. There's no question about it, and unfortunately there's a lot of them. But not everybody that disagrees with you is bad. You can't just cancel out people, especially when it comes to relationships, Rabotai. Now, the Chazon Ish continues telling us that it's not something that you'll learn only from learning MUSSAR, or something that you'll only learn from only learning HALACHA. Even Rabbi Israel Misalant himself, the father of MUSSAR, said that you have to learn halacha extensively, not just superficially, if you ever want to arrive at loving the law itself, even the law that's inconvenient to you. Because one of the things that we learned from the Gemara in Masechet Chulin, page 44b, is who's a Talmid Chacham? Who's a Talmid Chacham? Now there are many descriptions. Talmid Chacham can quote you different things, answers for different things across the entire Torah, sure. But the Gemara says no, something else. Who's a Talmid Chacham? Someone that can show the taref to himself. Meaning, someone that has, nobody else is looking. No one knows if he's going to follow, not going to follow, he does it, he doesn't do it, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And he sees that he has an animal, he just shecht, he just slaughtered it. No one's going to know anything. He could serve it on a dish, no one's going to know if it's kosher or not kosher. But he himself knows, there's a hole in the lung, that's it. Not kosher. If he's honest with himself, that's a Talmid Chacham. It's not just based on the knowledge. It's the knowledge along with the Yirat Shamayim, along with the MUSSAR that comes with it. That's a real Talmid Chacham. He can see that there's something wrong in himself, and even when no one else is looking other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he still does the right thing. That's a Talmid Chacham, Rabotai. That's a Talmid Chacham. A person that does it is a person that's going to succeed in his relationships with himself and with other people. But a person that's not willing to call himself the wrong one from time to time is not a person that's going to succeed in serving Hashem the right way. You see, Rabotai, one of the main things that we try to teach is how to avoid destroying your relationship with Hashem. One of the things that we've focused on over the years is to teach people to avoid destroying their BEIT. Baruch Hashem, we had the Siyat Dishmaya to be one of the ones that teach it in English, one of the only ones that teach it in English altogether. And a lot of times people tell me stories I don't share in the public simply because there are stories that really we hear from the Chachamim, the Kabbalists, we hear from the Zohar, but you never think that these things exist in the world today, but they do. The Zohar Kadosh says that one of the ways to destroy your relationship with Hashem is by destroying your BEIT, not protecting your BEIT, being immoral, being promiscuous, and so on. And one of the examples is that in the name of Hashem is written on your neshama. And the name of Hashem, one of them is spelled Shin Dalit and Yud. 3 letters. Now the Yud is on the male member. When a person destroys his BEIT, when a person violates his BEIT, that Yud runs away. And he's only left with Shin Dalit. Shin Dalit spells demon. Now,
many times people tell me that they see things at night, they see things, in the streets, they see things in their rooms, and so on and so forth. And I always tell them this is because of something. Either you have idolatry in your house, or you have immorality in your past or in your present. Those are typically the two most, things that cause this type of stuff. Now, sometimes these people go for a second opinion to people that are either unfamiliar with it or people that are have an interest to make this person follow them. And many times they'll get a complete opposite opinion, a complete opposite teachings. But the reality is, Rabotai, is that if you have any desire whatsoever to serve Hashem the right way, you have to serve Hashem in a way where it follows the halacha. Halacha is that you have to learn Torah. When you ask questions, you tell the rabbi that you're asking a question. If you ask another rabbi, if you're going to go to a different rabbi, you have to make sure that you follow what Da'at Torah is. You get an answer, you follow the answer. You don't just keep shopping around. You do certain things in an ethical way and not just in a convenient way. When you do that, you'll arrive at success. When you don't do it, unfortunately, you're setting yourself up for failure. And sometimes I see that certain people, they do some good things. So some people would call them good people, but they have really, really bad lives because they have really, really bad traits. And most of the stuff is usually self-inflicted. It's not something like Hashem just wants to punish them because he wants to have a good time or something. Many times it's self-inflicted. They just have bad traits where they simply disrespect either Talmid Chacham or the Torah in general, or their friends, or their peers, or their parents, or their elders. It usually has to do with the relationship with somebody. Sometimes that relationship is with Hashem and they're immoral, or they have some type of idolatry, and therefore Hashem sends them different signs of different demons running around their house or in their life. But sometimes it's not as apparent, it's not as scary. Sometimes they just have a bunch of enemies, a bunch of people that don't like them, a bunch of people that take advantage of them, a bunch of people that cause them problems. And it's usually not just because of those people. It's usually because of you. It's usually because you're doing something. So that's what the Torah teaches here. The Chazon Ish is trying to teach us that you have to make sure that just as careful as you are about what's going in your mouth as far as kosher food, make sure that what goes out of your mouth is also kosher. How do you know it's kosher? You know it's kosher if it has both MUSSAR and HALACHA making up that statement. If it's just MUSSAR, you're just telling people what you think and you think that you're Mr. Ethical, for sure you're going to at some point create evil and hurt people. If it's just HALACHA, you're not going to be sentimental to people and you're going to tell people certain things that are simply judgmental and not understanding of where they are in their lives. You're going to hurt them and you're going to cause damage. If you want to help the world around you, your sons, your daughters, your parents, your siblings, your spouses, yourself, with your servitude of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you have to take MUSSAR and HALACHA and make it your daily teachings every single day. And know this, that when you do this, you will get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But you also have a new type of enemy. And that enemy is the Erev Rav. That's going to tell you you're going the wrong direction. You have to fight. And make sure you stand up for what you believe. Stand up for what you believe. But you don't have to stand too high. Why? Bring them sources. You have the Rambam to rely on. You have the Stipler Gaon to rely on. You have Ravadi to rely on. You have your sources. You have your reasons behind what you believe. When you show the Erev Rav that you have giants backing what you're doing, they'll run away. Why? Because they have nobody backing them other than their mother, the Satan's wife. Keep going strong. Don't expect the fight to be easy, but nonetheless expect to win because you're going to do the right thing. BeEzrat Hashem, each and every single one of us will use this as a little bit more fuel to the spiritual fire that's trying to get us closer and closer to Hashem, and even more so now than ever, get our brothers and sisters closer and closer to Hashem. they're all literally victims of society for the most part. You have so many Erev Rav out there destroying them, telling them not to learn the truth, telling them things that are against the truth. So much garbage out there. Honestly, I'm trying really, really hard, not even mentioning most of the stuff that I know and I see every day. I'm just tired of it. Every day there's more garbage that's sent to my desk that I'm thinking about mentioning, and it's just too much. I want to focus more and more on the Torah and less on these Erev Rav. Why? Because you already know they exist anyway. If I teach you the subject overall, unless I have to absolutely warn you about something new like I did recently, I'm generally not going to go over the same things over and over again. Why? Because if you don't know it by now, there's nothing's going to help you. BeEzrat HaShem, Rabotai Karim, we're going to use these teachings of the sages, the earlier ones, the later ones, to get closer and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to help Am Yisrael, both physically and spiritually, to get closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to do the will of Hashem, the way Hashem willed it. And BeEzrat Hashem, there's going to be a day where HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name will be one, and his name will be one, he will be one. As it says, Adonai Echad Ushmo Echad.
Seven years of lectures. Seven months of film editing. Countless hours of study by two rabbis. Information we received over 3,000 years ago. All for this moment. Tikkun Hadreed. The movie.
There's a small member in your body. It shouldn't take over your whole life. If you satiate it, you're never going to have enough.
The Sofer clan, when it gets a hold of something, it does not let go.
Time for us to rectify what we have done.
Normal numbers should be somewhere around 20 million or higher.
You're never going to have control of it. If you start it, and only feed it when it's permissible according to the Torah.
Pornography is as addictive as crack cocaine.
You're always going to be happy, including this world and the next. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen.